Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tracking a journey that happens literally all around us, yet, mostly out of sight. We're going to explore the avian life cycle, diving into the incredible, frankly harrowing journey these creatures take, from absolute biological silence all the way to achieving ecological dominance in the open skies. It's just this remarkable process of rapid adaptation and evolutionary engineering. Let's dive in.
Every bird has a story that begins in silence. Think about that for a second. Before the majestic migrations and long before those complex morning songs that establish territory and attract mates, there's just this quiet, highly optimized waiting period. During this silent incubation, rapid cellular division and complex metabolic pathways are secretly laying the foundation for one of nature's absolute most demanding physical feats.
Section 1. The Silent Beginning.
The architecture required to create a viable nesting environment, it's honestly staggering. Just look at these materials: twigs, leaves, soft feathers, and mud. Combining these requires way more than just basic instinct. It demands a real, functional understanding of structural integrity and thermal insulation. Birds literally weave these things together. They pack in the mud for stabilization, and then they layer in those feathers for heat retention, effectively engineering their own little microclimate. This meticulously crafted structure absolutely must withstand wind shear and crazy temperature fluctuations to safely harbor that next generation.
Because, as we see here, hidden inside a tiny egg lies a life that will face storms, predators, and seemingly impossible challenges. But the egg itself is a total biological miracle. It's a fully self-contained life support system. Beneath that super delicate shell are specialized membranes that manage gas exchange, regulate moisture, and protect the developing embryo. It's a true evolutionary marvel, designed to sustain this incredibly fragile existence right before it embarks on a wildly dangerous journey.
Section 2. A vulnerable new world.
So for days or even weeks, the devoted parents provide constant thermal regulation to keep those embryos viable, shielding them from the rain and the cold. Then, finally, hatching day arrives. The sheer physical exertion of breaking through that shell triggers rapid metabolic changes. In many species, these young chicks enter the world totally blind and entirely bare. But over the next few weeks, we see this miraculous transition. Those downy layers are quickly replaced by actual feathers, and they finally open their eyes to visually process their new, incredibly exposed environment.
And talk about a helpless phase. At this point, they cannot fly, they cannot find food, and they absolutely cannot survive on their own. They can't even regulate their own body temperature. But surprisingly, this complete vulnerability is actually a calculated evolutionary trade-off. By giving birth to highly undeveloped young, the parents reduce the time the offspring spend confined inside the egg. The catch? It shifts the entire burden of development directly onto the parents, requiring a massive, focused effort just to ensure survival outside that shell. And sustaining that rapid growth, it requires an astronomical amount of calories. So from sunrise to sunset, the parents enter this tireless, relentless loop. They're constantly searching for specific high-protein foods, insects, seeds, worms, fish, just to drive their chicks' muscular development. To put that into perspective, some songbird parents make up to 1,000 foraging trips in a single day. 1,000! It is an exhausting, non-stop metabolic cycle driven purely by the need to push the young past this super vulnerable stage.
Section 3. Nature's Dangers. Harsh Realities.
But nature is never easy. The precise nurturing care required to raise young is constantly tested by intense, frankly brutal environmental volatility. Every single day is a struggle against the shifting ecological baseline. A sudden cold snap or heavy rainfall can instantly disrupt that carefully engineered microclimate of the nest, putting immense physiological stress on those developing chicks.
The threats to their survival are coming from everywhere. High-velocity winds and violent storms shake the nest to its core, constantly threatening to just dislodge the whole thing. At the exact same time, snakes are literally climbing the trees, specifically hunting for these nests. And if that wasn't enough, apex predators like hawks are continuously circling overhead, scanning the territory for any sign of a meal. The pressure is multidirectional, and it is relentless.
Only the strongest and most determined survive. That isn't just some dramatic phrase. It is the fundamental engine of natural selection. Surviving this crucible of extreme weather and constant looming predation ensures that only the most genetically robust, highly adapted individuals ever reach maturity. The nest is basically a harsh environmental filter, ensuring the continued resilience of the entire species.
Section 4. The First Flight.
Then, weeks later, the young bird finally stands right at the edge of the nest. Its wings tremble. This physical reaction represents a profound biological threshold. The physiological development is complete, the flight muscles are fully formed, but man, it requires a massive surge of instinct to override the natural, very physical hesitation of leaving a stable surface. This is the exact moment where genetic hardwiring has to take absolute control over environmental caution.
It literally comes down to a binary choice. Side A, below lies the unknown, a sheer drop subject to gravity and potential ruin. But side B, above, is endless freedom, an entirely new dimension of ecological dominance that the bird's anatomy was specifically engineered to exploit. Overcoming this divide requires calculating airspeed, altitude, and muscle coordination in a split second. The biological stakes could not possibly be higher, as instinct pushes the bird toward its evolutionary destiny.
And then, after one final moment of courage, it jumps. The wind catches its wings. The sheer physical exertion required for that first wing beat is massive, engaging those powerful pectoral muscles to generate immediate lift and thrust. The aerodynamics instantly kick in, turning a terrifying freefall into controlled, sustained flight. It is an absolutely stunning display of biomechanics and instinct seamlessly aligning to conquer the skies.
Section 5. Lessons from the Wild.
But of course, that initial flight is really just the beginning of a whole new adventure. Now rapid behavioral adaptation becomes absolutely critical. The young bird must learn to search for complex food sources completely independently. It has to calculate evasion tactics to escape highly evolved predators in the wild and ultimately find its own unique place in the world. It's an immediate, drastic shift from relying on parental care to surviving entirely on its own spatial awareness within the broader ecosystem.
Ultimately, achieving this kind of ecological success requires a very specific set of traits. Nature rewards patience. Just think about that lengthy, vulnerable incubation period. It rewards courage, which is required to face apex predators and extreme environmental volatility. And above all, it rewards determination, the exact kind needed to overcome the biomechanical hurdle of taking that very first flight. These core evolutionary characteristics are what allow a species to transform from a fragile little embryo into an incredibly resilient survivor. The avian life cycle serves as a pretty powerful reminder of how vulnerability eventually transforms into absolute mastery through sheer biological perseverance. Because, as we've seen, every great achievement begins with small, uncertain steps. So what leap will you take today?